Welcome back to Spitballin Cards. In today's video, we are going to be talking about player profile and projections for their baseball cards heading into 2025. We're close, guys. It's March 3rd when we're recording this. March 4th when this, maybe not March 4th, later this week, sometime in the middle of March, this will be coming out. And it's exciting. We're almost just to the end of spring training. Seasons will be starting soon. The Dodgers and the Cubs play on a random 19th and 20th of this month. It'll be great. So in this episode, you have me, Scott, we have Chris, we have Jeff, and we have Phil. Ty is off. I don't think Ty cares if we share this, but he had a baby, and so he may be off for the next couple times. Who knows? So congratulations to him and his wife. But in this episode, we have players 20 through 16. Those are the 5 players we're highlighting. Next week will be 15 through 11 and so forth. And so we're going to start with number 20, who is Chris Sale. So we have a Braves fan here and a Red Sox fan here. So you might have different opinions on Chris Sale. So let me know. First, Jeff, we'll get your, not biased opinion. What do you think of Chris Sale and his cards? What needs to happen for them to go up? Are they going to go up this year? What do you think?
Well, I'm not completely unbiased as I have Sale on some fantasy teams, so I'm hoping for a repeat year. I'm not exactly counting on it because he was so dominant last year, and it was nice to see him actually be healthy. As someone in our comments talked about in a recent video when we compared him to DeGrom, a lot of Sale's injuries of late have been kind of fluky things and not necessarily always arm related like DeGrom's have been. So I have a little more faith in Sale's ability to stay healthy this year. And I still wouldn't buy his cards.
That's funny. I want him to stay healthy. Obviously I need him to stay healthy. He was just, I'm in a couple of fantasy leagues, as I'm sure all of us are. One of them is a 12-team league where we each can keep 10 in perpetuity. Like there's no round penalty or like auction value, or you just keep any 10 you want. And our keepers were due last night, and Chris Sale was not kept. So wow. I think I find that like that was pretty interesting. I love the guy. What I would like to see the Braves do is just bring him along slowly and don't pitch him in April. Just start him in May, and then maybe he'll be healthy in October, as opposed to last year when he was healthy for like 5 months and 3.5 weeks and couldn't pitch when, the broken down Braves offense needed him. I love the guy. I am a big fan of his, but much like Jeff, I'm not going to be buying any Chris Sale cards.
Is that because you're scared of jinxing him or because you don't believe in him?
It's not that I don't believe in his cards. I just don't really think, I don't know why the hobby would suddenly care about Chris Sale. I don't really see it. Like, Verlander's better, Kershaw's better, Scherzer's been better. Greinke has even had like arguably a better career. I don't see why a hobby that generally ignores pitchers to begin with would suddenly get really excited about Chris Sale, who was very likely going to be on his 4th team going into 2026. Because think this is his last year with the Braves.
Most pitchers, I feel like, bounce around more than
pitchers. I don't know. I really like him. And yes, I'll be completely honest. In the back of my mind, I don't want to buy a card and break him. I think I've passed it to Jeff. I may for this season have passed my jinx on to Jeff, but I don't know. I'm wary of any and all pitchers, and right now Chris Sale means too much to me and my team that I don't want to put any money into him as well.
All right, Phil, what do you think as a Red Sox fan?
He's eclipsed 160 innings once over the last 6 years. I don't think he should be on this list. MLB Network top 100 players right now. I think if we base this on last season alone, yes, he should be in the top 25. But for this season, I just don't think so. In 2023, it was his shoulder. In 2022, it was his finger. In 2021, it was his rib. The 3 years prior to that, he dealt with elbow ailments. And he was injured, as Chris said, injured his back in late September last year. So he was awesome last year. I think the reason why people care about him a little bit more now is recency bias, but also he's 1 year older than Zack Wheeler with 800 more strikeouts. He's not just a Hall of Fame maybe, he's more likely than not based on what he did last year. And he was awesome last year. 5.77 K to walk ratio, anything near 6 is elite. The velocity was good. That was Chris Sale, right? He's still in his prime, 2.09 FIP. He was awesome. But
yeah, there is a possibility that all those flukish injuries that he suffered kind of kept mileage off his arm. Maybe he's got 3 or 4 more big years left. Hopefully he does. He's such a good competitor and he's a great interview as well. I got to see a bunch of those last year. So I'm rooting for him, but I'm not risking it.
So I am risking it on Chris Sale. You talk about a pitcher, like I know you guys went all in on Garrett Cole last year. I am more confident on Chris Sale making the Hall of Fame by far than Garrett Cole, to be fully transparent. And I can show you the comparison between the two of them. I'm actually like, here it is right here. This is them. Chris Sale's 1 year older than Garrett Cole, and he has more games pitched. That's because he was a reliever the first 2 years of his career. And so because he was coming out of the bullpen, he has more games, but less innings pitched, about the exact same amount of innings pitched, but he's just better. Look at 8 All-Stars. He has a ton of Cy Young finishes. If we scroll down here, 6, 5, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4. Last year, he won the Cy Young, which is like the biggest knock against him. He's at 2,400 strikeouts. He still led the league last year in strikeouts every 9 innings pitched. So he has a great chance at 3,000 strikeouts. He's only 35 with less than 2,000 innings. So like you mentioned, I think it was you, Chris, the mileage has been held off of him, which means I think he could still pitch at a relatively high level for the next few years. We don't need him to be as good as last year. We just need him to stay healthy, relatively healthy, and accumulate some stats. No pitcher who has 2,800 strikeouts. There's only one pitcher from like the olden times, and he was just like a innings eater who has 2,800 strikeouts, is not in the Hall of Fame. So I'm very confident on Chris Sale. And one thing that you and Jeff approach cards differently than me, and sometimes it really pays off for you, and I'm jealous. And I sometimes do it the opposite way, where I look at old guys too much. But there's times where people will collect the cards of a player when they realize he's a Hall of Famer. And I don't think that conversation has fully happened yet in baseball media. Because it was in this era, up until age 30, he was fantastic, right? Through age 30, he had 2,000 strikeouts with 44.6 WAR. That's unheard of. We'll never see that again, probably. But he fell off, but it's starting again. And so where his cards are priced, I can even show that too. In comparison to, and I have this because I made a video on it, my channel that's coming out or already came out.
Yeah, that seemed like you had this chambered up and ready to go.
No, this is solely based off of I did a video on it. But his raw is $31 versus Garrett Cole at $175, Clayton Kershaw at $700, Justin Verlander at $350. I am taking that all day. There's more chance that goes from 31 to 100 than Clayton Kershaw going from 700 to 2,000. So that's why I think Chris Sale does have potential, but I understand there's major risk associated.
There's massive. He might be the highest risk, high reward, or highest risk, middle reward out there. Like he's one shoulder twinge away from it all just blowing up.
I think you're discounting how good he was in the 2010s, though. I think you really are discounting it.
But so is everyone else.
Everyone else, yeah.
No.
That's what I worry about.
There was good pitchers like Kershaw.
No, I'm not saying he isn't good. But even if he gets let's say he goes into the Hall of Fame, there's still no guarantee people care.
They will. I'm not saying it doesn't have to be a lot of people that have to care if you have the right cards. If you have a Black Topps flagship, if you have a gold Bowman chromatograph, those cards are important enough that they will care about those cards. Do they care about his base and PSA 10 Topps flagship? Probably not. But that's my thoughts on Chris Sale. So.
Okay. I'm pulling for him. Again, I need him to be really good this year. So I want him to be good. I hope your Bowman Chromato red, I hope it triples in value. I hope it does.
Yeah. Like, for example, with that card, projection on price, if I wanted to sell it, realistically, I think 6,000, 8,000 is very realistic price for that card if he pitches another good season. So
sounds like a Probstein projection to me, but that's okay.
It's a Scott Baldwin projection.
Yeah, there you
go. It's even worse. But other than that, number 19 is a pitcher we could probably spend a little bit less time on in regards to long-term value in cards, Zack Wheeler. Very interesting pitcher. I'll pull his stats up too before you guys share your thoughts on him so we can reference it as we're talking. But he has really come into his own later in his career than someone like a Sale. One of the few workhorses that's active in baseball, I'd say. But he is older. We talk about him being the same age as Sale. He has 35.2 WAR. He doesn't have a Cy Young. He has like no hardware, Gold Glove, 2 All-Star appearances. But he's good, right? But like he will never get to 3,000 strikeouts. What do we think of someone like Zack Wheeler heading into his age 35 season?
I will say he has one thing that Chris Sale does not have. Postseason resume.
Durability.
And a pretty good one at that.
Let's look at his playoff stats.
And durability of late for sure. He's been consistently good the last, 4 years, good and healthy.
It feels like, yeah. So, but in regards to baseball card values, do we think there's anything that he can do to really make a massive difference in the short term?
Yeah, I mean, he could win the Cy Young this year. That helped Chris Sale last year.
He doesn't need much.
Yeah. I mean, Sale winning the Cy Young last year put him on your radar, Scott, like pretty hard. So if Wheeler wins the Cy Young this year, I would expect you to be hunting a nice Bowman Chrome Gold or Red of Zack Wheeler in the offseason.
Believe it or not, I was all in on Chris Sale in 2020 and in 2021, and I have videos on it. So I've always been a Sale fan, believe it or not. But
I delete those videos personally.
Well, and then he didn't treat you very well for 3 or 4 years, Scott. So
he's a pitcher. I like these love-hate relationships, but like I don't think there's anything that Zack Wheeler can do to have major long-term value. The thing that he does have, though, Phillies fans are crazy. They love their players, which can help. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, so about his recent success, K to walk or K minus walk percentage, which is like one of the bigger stats that people are looking to if they had to look at like one stat for a pitcher to see like how much of this was real, how much of this was luck. Right around 22 each of the last 4 seasons. So incredibly consistent. And maybe what's even more impressive is that, and Jeff alluded to this, so over the last 7 seasons, not counting 2020, he's gone over 182 innings every season but one. So 5 out of 6. So he's like the new, as Scott said, like the new generation workhorse. Unfortunately, though, workhorse these days means 170, 180, 185 innings plus. The bar for workhorses isn't 220 innings anymore. If you go back, and all the viewers know this, but in 2010, the pitcher with the 15th most innings was at 225. I think that was Zack Wheeler.
Yeah.
In 2015, the 15th highest inning count for a pitcher was 208. And this past year, it was 182, and the highest was 208 with Logan Gilbert. So literally, you're seeing like on the top side, innings go down 40 innings. And from a workhorse perspective, like 185 is like probably the number that you're hoping your guy gets to, and that's only a handful. So Wheeler actually, his velocities dipped down over the last few years, but that hasn't affected his pitching abilities at all. So what does this all mean? I mean, 1,625 strikeouts. He's going to be 35 years old in a few months. So I think we have to ask ourselves from a long-term perspective, and we talked about this a little bit on this show, but will the Hall of Fame bar change for pitchers? And probably more importantly, will the generational pitcher talent bar change? So do you need to get to 3,000 strikeouts to have long-term collectability is kind of what I'm saying. Or is that going to change? Is that going to shift at some point after Chris Sale retires?
We're seeing that happen with hitters. I don't know if anyone besides maybe Freddie Freeman, maybe, right? We don't know how people will age, and he's still 800 strikeouts away, Chris. Is that how far away he is? You'd probably know.
Hits.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, hits. Yeah. He's sorry. Yeah. 800 strikeouts. Good Lord.
It's changed for hitters. So it absolutely would change for pitchers. But the issue is, it is what Chris said. No one really cares. So unless you have those big milestones, I don't know if people will care.
I don't even know if it's milestone. I would say like for Sale and for Wheeler, like a big postseason, hold up the World Series trophy, having gotten a win in Game 6 of the World Series. I think that could move the needle.
Chris Sale was the last out in 2018, which is like a moment at least people can see. You know? But he wasn't great that World Series. Phil probably knows, but he did have the final out, which is cool.
Yeah, he wasn't like Phil. He wasn't completely healthy in that postseason, was he?
No, he wasn't. Yeah, we were. I think we were leaning on David Price way more than we thought we would for
he was
some of those series.
Yeah, Evaldi had some big games in that series too. I do think we're getting to the point. I really think postseason might start to matter more than like big milestones.
And peak. We've talked about that before. So he's been pretty good the last 4 years. If he could throw another 4 years together like that, maybe he's got a good 7 to 8 year peak where he doesn't get those round numbers, but the Hall of Fame still looks at him as one of the better pitchers of his generation. So they're going to put him in. I don't know. I just still don't know if people care. Even if he goes to the Hall of Fame, he'll go up from $20 to $30.
If you give me Zack Wheeler or Garrett Cole cards, I'm taking Garrett Cole cards every time. They both debuted in 2013, and Garrett Cole's just been playing better. And on top of that, 2013, like you mentioned, even Chris Sale's numbers blow out Zack Wheeler's numbers, and he didn't pitch the last 4 years. So it is one of those things where it's tough. And he doesn't have really any accolades, 2 All-Star appearances, 1 Gold Glove.
Yeah, consistency isn't exactly rewarded unless it's really long-term consistency. And even when there's some consistency rewarded by the Hall of Fame in guys like Harold Baines that we've talked about, still doesn't excite a lot of people. So I just don't know if even him having an outside chance at the Hall of Fame means big things for his cards.
Yeah, I'm just not convinced that the Veterans Committee, they like Harold Baines. They like those large counting numbers, right? That's what they like. They like longevity. And then we have the writers ballot that we can talk about. I don't think that he fits either of those two to get in. Is my
not right now.
Yeah,
not yet. No, not yet.
Just had his best season based on ERA and WHIP, so he's still missing a ton of bats.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, he's turning 35 pretty soon.
It's tough. It's tough. But that leads us into another interesting player, another interesting conversation. Ketel Marte. He's number 18. Very much deserves to be number 18 currently in baseball. He had a very good season last year. He's put up some very big seasons. Phil, you have been a Ketel Marte truther since 2020, I think, on your YouTube channel. And so what do you guys think of Ketel Marte? Is there any path for him outside of maybe Arizona fans that will ever want his cards?
Who's going first?
I'll just say one thing, not Marte specific, but we touched on it last week with Corbin Burns being out in the desert. It's going to be tough for them to make any headway in that division. So he's not going to get a lot of postseason run, I wouldn't think, but you never know. I think he's been a great player, but I think he's going to be overshadowed.
Yeah, this is what kills him. He has a monster year, 6.9 WAR, followed by 1.5, 1.8, 1.5. Not fair with COVID. He had an injury, so that's kind of on him. But then wasn't great.
Kind of like Bryce Harper up and down right there.
Very much like Bryce Harper's fixed that, but yeah, very much like Bryce Harper in that sense.
2 top 5 MVP finishes, and the rest of his seasons haven't been that great.
Heading into age 31 season with 31 WAR. I wouldn't say the Hall of Fame door is closed, but it's closing.
Is he Marcus Semien?
Let's compare him.
Yeah.
I think the main difference, well, there's a lot of differences, is durability.
Yes.
Ketel Marte has how many seasons with more than 150 games played? 2 seasons in a 9.5-year career. So that's one of his issues.
On a per game basis, he's pretty good. Look at even last year, he had 136 games and still almost had 7 WAR.
Yeah, he's posted some really nice WRC pluses or OPS pluses. WRC plus of 150 in 2019, 150 plus in 2024, same thing. 141 WRC plus in 2021. So compare that to a guy like Ellie De La Cruz, who was only 118 WRC plus last year. Last year, a lot of people forget, but he was in the MVP conversation for a hot minute, and then he got injured. So he only ended up playing 136 games. So, I think durability is like the nail in the coffin with him. He's great. He's just a better real-life talent than he is a hobby talent.
Yeah.
He swings harder and impacts the ball harder than Corey Seager, a lot of 117 EVs. But long-term hobby value is hanging by a thread, even though he's a really great defender. It's just, you look at that WAR. So the Fangraphs WAR is a little bit less. Ronald Acuna has the same exact Fangraphs WAR, and he's 4 years younger, and he's missed a ton of time.
He's missed 2 seasons.
28 is like what his Fangraphs WAR is, and so is Acuna's.
He reminds me of someone like Charlie Blackmon. He's a good ball player. We all knew about Charlie Blackmon at his peak. Rocky fans love Charlie Blackmon. I think Ketel Marte will be that same thing for Arizona. So he'll have some value, but I wouldn't invest in his cards unless you just
you can get his Stadium Club rookie auto for like $20.
Yeah. I bet his Bowman Chrome autograph's that same price if I had to guess.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he's a really good player. If you play fantasy and you're in a redraft league, he's probably a good 2nd or 3rd round pick.
Yeah, nice second base eligibility.
He's like a rally killer to his own values. If you think about like when has he been the most collected player in his little small market team? Maybe when Goldschmidt left before Corbin Carroll came in, so like 2022. But he was terrible. 12 homers in 137 games. So he's just kind of inconsistent with his performance and with his health. And I just don't see a path. But it still could happen. Who knows? At least some relevance.
Yeah, he might be the best player on his team this year, but Corbin Carroll hype right now is starting to reach like irritating levels. I have to say.
People are getting confident with that spring training he's had.
Yeah, it might be a great time to sell some Corbin Carrolls if you got him.
Yeah, now he's got a back issue, right?
Does he? He's hurt again?
He had to leave the game, I think, with back soreness.
So
It's not the shoulder, though.
That's pro. Hey, someone who hurt their shoulder recently, not a fan. But gold Bowman chromatograph, $299. Seems like kind of like a lot, to be honest, but that's how much it's going for. Base, $41. Blue, $70. Black, $150 out of 50. $34. 1010 for SGC, $200. Getting some love. That's best offer though, so probably lower than that. Not much value. He is a fun player to collect if you like Ketel Marte.
Yeah, if you're a Diamondbacks fan, yeah.
If you don't want to, that's the only way I'd say it is. If you want to just have Ketel Marte cards, great. Maybe he could be a short-term flip if he does have another big season, or they go from $40 to $70 if you want to take that risk. But long-term, I'm not too confident.
Yeah, I might get roasted for this, but yeah, as a Braves fan, I have some Ozzie Albies cards that I like, but I don't have any misconceptions about the hobby suddenly being in love with Ozzie Albies, but I like having his cards because I like him.
You should compare their StatCast pages, Scott. Who has more red?
I'm sure Ketel Marte is a better player right now.
How much younger? How old is Albies though?
He's young. He's like 25, but he also has like 25 broken bones in the last like 3 seasons. He just really keeps breaking bones. I don't know if he's not drinking milk. Maybe we need him to get some egg whites like we were talking about earlier, but damn.
There's Ketel, pretty strong. Let's pull up another baseball spawn page. Here is Ozzie Albies. Oh,
am I colorblind or those aren't the colors you want?
That's not good.
Not a lot of red.
No. I mean,
doesn't strike out much. That's great.
Look at him the year before. He missed like 4 months last year.
Year before. Much better.
There we go.
That's better. There, really healthier.
Year before Marte, much worse story.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
But so Ozzie Albies, how much WAR does Albies have? And I hope you all know, we know WAR isn't a perfect stat. It's just the best way to summarize performance very quickly when we're looking at these players.
It's a good starting point.
But like in regards to actual offense,
his OPS plus is Jeter-esque.
Yeah, that's not a great OPS plus at all. His OBP is abysmal. Is it pretty evident when he plays? His OBP is that bad? I'm not a big Braves guy, so
I could bring my wife in here and she will rant about how much she hates Ozzie Albies for like 10 minutes. She just can't stand it. Like he's just so streaky. For a month, he'll look like the best hitter in the world, and then for the next month, he'll look like he's never played baseball before.
Let's look at 2023 splits and see if you're right. Yeah, look at this month. Look at the last 2 months of the year. He was great. Yeah, this is probably it must be one of his more consistent years, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the whole team had a pretty good. I mean, he was hitting right behind Acuna, who had one of the best years in franchise history.
2023 is not a great year to compare for that reason. Let's compare a different year. Where is splits? Anywho, I don't know if this is a great viewing experience. Me just pulling up.
That's all right. Albies did not. He's not one of the guys we should be talking about, but we can segue
not
into
in
his
the top
teammate.
20 MLB players.
Oh God, no.
So actually, before we talk about his teammate, there's one more player I talk about first, and Corey Seager.
Oh, right.
I like Corey Seager. But I have the hardest time with his cards because he's on the same train of just can't have a full season. But when he plays, he's really good.
Oh, he's a per-game monster. He's a fantasy per-game monster.
Like some of his numbers will surprise you, and he actually fixed his defense last year, I'm pretty sure, too. So do you know how much WAR Corey Seager averages? Let's ask this. How much WAR does Francisco Lindor average for every 162 games played? Baseball Reference WAR, which doesn't like him as much as Fangraphs WAR.
5.
He averages 5.8, Lindor.
What?
How much do you think Corey Seager averages?
That's like 6.2.
6.5.
5.8, the same as Lindor.
Huh.
The difference between the two players is Lindor's healthy. That's what I wanted to get to in regards to their career metrics. But Seager's a better offensive player than Lindor, pretty clear.
Yeah.
Like this last year was Lindor's best year. But here's Seager, right? He had 5 WAR season, 36.8 career WAR.
In what, 120 games?
Yes, 123.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Only one.
The season before, 119 games, you put up almost 7 WAR.
Yeah, 42.
If he would have been healthy,
33 homers.
If he could have been healthy, like the MVP conversation would have been really interesting with Ohtani. Because if he had had the same pace, he would have had a 8.5 WAR season, maybe 9 WAR season as a position player shortstop with a 174 OPS plus. That would have been a very interesting conversation.
Probably 40 to 45 home runs.
Yeah, with 42 doubles in 119 games, would have had probably 55 doubles.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman-esque. double.
Very much.
But instead, he wasn't healthy till October, and then he won World Series MVP. So I say that worked out. That worked out.
That's the conversation we got to have with Seager. That has to help his legacy a little bit.
Not many guys have 2 World Series MVPs on their mantle.
Yep.
Who does? Reggie Jackson? He has some.
Reggie Jackson has 2. Seager has 2. I think that's it.
I think that's it too. And honestly, he could have a third one this year because the Rangers are very good. So
yeah, I think he's interesting. I think with him, it's health. So 150 games, if he can give us that on average for the next 4 years, he could be a Hall of Fame lock at that point because he's playing at a super high level. Weighted OBA, WOBA, 365 plus in 4 of the last 5 seasons, I think is what I recorded. And I think another way this could go wrong is we talked about defense. 6'4" shortstop, so he's not a giant, but he's on the other side of 30 right now. I think he turns 31 next month. And
correct.
what's the defense? What's the defense going to look like with the aging curve? Outs above average has been borderline elite each of the last 3 seasons. As Scott mentioned, it wasn't always the case, but the defense is playing real well. And if his baseball reference wars are even higher, then his DRS is even better than his OAA, which is 85th to 90th percentile.
Phil, it sounds like you were speaking a different language right there for a second. It was awesome. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I ran a search of shortstops from 1950 to 2024 with at least 4,000 plate appearances, and we're going to see where he ranks all time in WRC plus. Second all time.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of his peak. I mean, Correa's third. So maybe it's not a perfect stat. We have Hanley Ramirez, Nomar, Trey Turner, Francisco Lindor. But it's not just second. He's 136. Next is 127 at third. So when he plays, he's like a generational talent.
Yeah. And the guy ahead of him is one of the biggest cheaters, one of the biggest steroid users in the history of baseball. So,
Well, like Phil said, if we could get 4 or 5 years, that would be great. He's only done 150 games. He's done it once in the last 9 years, so it's not likely. But if he could do it, he's a shoo-in.
I feel like Seager's a good opportunity, maybe as a short term flip for this year, because the Rangers were bad last year. Everything went wrong, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people this year because the West doesn't look great, and Adolis Garcia can't be that bad again. Who knows what DeGrom's going to do? But that team has a lot of talent. Evan Carter also can't possibly be that bad again, right, Phil? He can't, can he?
What's Evan Carter's WRC plus for his career? I bet it's pathetic. So that's the issue. We don't know how much the injuries were affecting him, and if he's really healthy this year. He's saying he is, but we've got to see it. Let's not talk about Evan Carter like we should have talked about Albies.
Right.
Josh Young, Wyatt Langford, they're going to be good.
They should be good.
Very good.
Corey Seager, though, he's reached 5 F-WAR only 3 times, and his highest F-WAR was 6.3. He missed 43 games that season in 2023, the year that Scott was talking about.
Yeah.
So give us some games. Give us a few full seasons, please.
You know what the challenge with Seager is to me? His cards aren't cheap right now. For what they're already pretty expensive. Last year, Francisco Lindor's gold Bowman Chrome autograph I got for $1,200 or $1,300 or something before the season in a BGS 9.5. I feel like that was a great price. If he has a good year, it'll go up. I sold it to Phil before that could happen because I needed to buy a different card, and Phil capitalized great. But I think he sold it for, I don't want to say your sales, but he turned out great on it. But Seager's sitting at $2,500 right now for his gold Bowman Chrome autograph. So what's the upside? And Nolan Arenado is 2.8 to 3.2. So he has to have a lot go right for the next few years for him to have major increase, I feel like.
Yeah, his prices are, I think people are aware of the postseason hardware. He also has an NLCS MVP, so he's got 3 postseason MVPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he can stay on the field and, Judge gets hurt and he can out-hit Gunnar and Bobby Witt, he's got a shot at an MVP this year.
Yeah, he's being respected. He could be the number 1 shortstop in the AL this year, potentially. I think Bobby has it on lock and Gunner's pretty close behind, but you never know. Never know. Okay.
Yeah, this is Seager, he did benefit from being with the Dodgers for a little bit, overshadowed by Bellinger for maybe a year or 2. And with Texas, it's not the smallest market, but it's certainly not the biggest market. I think the big difference between him and Lindor is that offense matters more. for collectors, for fans. And I think even though their wars are pretty close and Lindor might have an edge, I think that's why Seager gets treated like Lindor, if not a little bit better, is because of most of his value comes from the offense. It seems, although his defense has been good lately. So I don't know.
So Lindor, I'm going to compare the two, but before I do, I think it's worth noting I'm going to show Baseball Reference WAR, which does not like Lindor's defense as much as the more accurate FanGraphs metric because it uses like actual range metrics that are just more accurate than projected based off of someone guessing what it should be. I think he has like 57 FanGraphs WAR at age 30, which is unheard of for a shortstop. But here they are side by side. They are the same age. And no, Lindor's younger than Seager, I believe. But just a better offensive player. But Lindor is just healthy, extremely good defender. I'm going to make it bigger. Sorry.
Yeah. See if you can zoom in there.
Yeah, I got you. Like, I don't know. And Lindor, his market is coming on strong. I heard rumors he might be named the captain for the Mets this year. And if that happens, I think, and he stays healthy for another few years, Mets fans could love Lindor. And that could really boost his hobby. That's a good fan base to have behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, he had 2 of their 3 biggest swings of the year. 2 of the biggest swings in Mets history last year, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lindor stays healthy, so that's the other big difference between the two.
Do you guys want to know something crazy? What if I told you it's almost a lock Francisco Lindor will have the most home runs for a player who played shortstop in history of Major League Baseball? Because A-Rod went to third. So for a shortstop, he is on pace to have the most home runs ever for a shortstop, which is, I think 400 is the most. He's at 285 right now. So it's pretty interesting. Like,
I'm kind of liking Witt's chances there if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, you got to go play in a different ballpark. I mean, Kaufman can really take away those home runs, unfortunately, as someone who watched the Royals for years. But yeah, so anyways, last player. I think we all like Seager. Ronald Acuna Jr. What do we think of his cards? I think we have a couple experts here, so I'll default to you, Chris.
Expert's a strong word. Yeah, he's got a lot of talent in that body, and we just have not seen it enough. There's no other way around it. I'm not entirely exactly sure what like his Bowman Chromes are going for right now, but I wouldn't touch any of his cards right now. I think we all have to, and the Braves do this too. He's got to play the game. He has to stay on the field. I don't think he's a buy now. I think he's just a wait and see. Personally, if you want to gamble that his knees are going to hold up, go for it. But Jeff and I have a couple nice Acunas. I've got, obviously a fairly deep PC of the guy, and I'm not expanding it right now for the most part. Like if stuff gets really, really cheap, I'm hopping on it. But I just want to see the kid play, and I don't know. I'm afraid that if I buy something, it's just gonna make it harder for him. But yeah, I'm excited to see him. It looks like his batting practices are going well. I can't imagine he's going to run a ton this year. I almost want them to put him in left and get him out of right field just to take any strain off those legs for this season. But yeah, a big October would probably be the thing that makes the needle move this year more than anything else.
Yeah. 2023 was a tough October for him.
The whole team stunk. They had 4 games and they just shit the whole thing away. It was pretty hard to watch.
It probably hurt too, because obviously Betts and Freeman, you also love them. They had a tough postseason that year too. It was.
Theirs was over in the blink of an eye. But I mean, the Braves' whole offense, they had just put up like a team slugging percentage. I think they set the major league record, and they could not hit. They couldn't hit the Phillies, and it was kind of sad.
Can I share one more thing on the last player really fast? Really fast. Sure. Here is shortstops aged 14 years old to 30 years old from 1950 to 2024. So basically since integration. Who through age 30 has the most WAR all time for a shortstop? You have Alex Rodriguez at 81.5, Cal Ripken Jr. at 65, and Lindor at 54. So third all time ahead of Ernie Banks, Alan Trammell, Robin Yount, and Derek Jeter. But Corey Seager's still at 15th all time, right behind Trey Turner. So I think it's just an interesting list to see how good Lindor's actually been. It's kind of surprising. So, all right, back to Acuna. Jeff, what do you think?
Hard to really add anything on to what Chris said. It just is baseball's better when he's out there. So I hope he plays. I too wouldn't be going near his cards now. I don't really know what they are. I mean, I guess unless they're they're really low and you're looking, if you're very confident in his ability to stay healthy this year, maybe looking for a short-term flip. But we've talked about this for him for years, about needing to see him do it for 2 years in a row. And we thought maybe we could get that last year, and we, of course, did not. So I don't know what it would take this time for him to get a significant boost in value.
Yeah, I'm staying away too. I think in the hobby right now with a guy like him, you can be patient. We saw what his recovery from the first ACL tear looked like, and the timetable looks very similar this time around. So I think we're hearing like maybe like first week of May, and it was last week of April in 2022 when he was pretty terrible. He's already 27 years old. How many 8 to 9 plus WAR seasons does he need to put up in a row in order to get back to all-time highs? So as I'm saying, like you can wait a little bit with the recovery here. The power, even though he says he's feeling better this time around, I want to see the power. I want to see it first.
Yeah.
And I don't care about the stolen bases. I want to see the power. He's not going to win the MVP this year, in my opinion. He's going to miss at least 25 games. At best, his WAR is 7.5. I don't think that's enough for him to win the MVP. That's the only way where I would feel like, oh, damn it, I really should have bought more of his stuff before he came back. But having said that, 28 WAR already, 4 years younger than Ketel Marte, same F WAR. So,
and I want to talk about his prices real quick. I didn't even realize that this card was up, but over on Fanatics Collect, about a week ago on February 23rd, his Bowman Chrome gold auto sold for $14,400. And as he was winning the MVP in 2023, that Bowman Chrome gold auto sold for $15K. So his prices are barely down from where they were. Just
wow.
Be aware.
What if I told you he's projected by Fangraphs to have 4.9 WAR? Would that change your opinion on any of this with the 146 WRC plus?
Aggressive. Look at those stolen bases. How realistic is that?
Very unrealistic.
Well, to be fair, in 2022 when he came back, he ran more than he hit for power. It was his back. It was his back knee that was altered or surgically repaired. I think it should be the front knee this time. So
yeah, right.
It looks like in BP he's launching balls. I don't know. I would expect the power to return more than the speed, but in 2022 it was the opposite. So,
and the projection is taking into account a pretty healthy year. Missing, if he's going to miss the first month, what did that say? 128 games he was going to play.
Assuming a lot of games.
Yes, assuming just about every game after he comes back.
It's all the projection doesn't mean anything because it doesn't know how he's going to feel. So I mean, I wouldn't even do your projections. Like they don't matter. You got to listen to him, see how he looks.
This is an expert computer, Chris.
And that was like a 5.3 WAR, which isn't enough for his prices to meaningfully spike this year, even if he does that, in my opinion.
I agree. The hard thing with Acuna is he's really only had like one monster year. Maybe two, if you want to count this almost 40-40. But like he had 5.1 WAR, pretty inefficient in some ways, but he was close to a 40-40 season. This year is just another level. But even the years before that, he wasn't quite. It's hard to 2020 because he was having a good year.
That's a Bryce Harper look.
2021 is the year that really hurt because that was his like he was the unanimous MVP the day that he got hurt. He was at 24-17 in June or like in late June, early July. I mean, and it ended up I think Harper won that MVP with a team that didn't make the playoffs. I gotta stop talking about Acuna. I'm gonna get sad in a minute.
Another problem is the defense. It just doesn't grade well, and it's bringing down that total WAR. People made pretty strong arguments in like early September, that year that he won the MVP, because Mookie Betts all around, there's an argument to be made. And I know obviously, 40-70, whatever. And eventually Mookie slowed down that final month, but that defense is going to haunt him in some of these seasons unless he figures out a way to fix it.
Yeah. People threaten my life, Phil, in some of the Braves groups I'm in. Like on like August 30th, I said Mookie Betts should win the MVP. Over Acuna because like he was playing second base and outfield. Like
he had a huge August too.
Yeah,
Mookie.
And he had just finishing an enormous month, and then Betts went cold, and Acuna put up like I think his best or second best month of the year, and went ballistic in September and won it in a landslide.
Respectfully to Mookie, he choked it away. to be honest. Not the MVP. He just choked that year away a little bit because then he struggled. It just continued. Kind of got mental. You could tell at the play he was pressing.
He had a terrible September. Like he was trying to get that 40th home run and just lost.
Oh, dude, it was brutal trying to watch him hit that one as someone who watched every at bat. But for his career, Acuna has negative 13 outs above average, which is surprising. It's that low to me, to be honest.
That's like 4 months for Devers. It's not that bad.
Let's see where Devers is, shall we?
No, we talked about Devers enough. Acuna seems to get bad roots on balls. Like his first step sometimes is questionable. I don't know if it's a placement thing, but there have definitely been several balls hit off the bat that look like they're outs. And when they cut to the outfield, like I don't know, he's running in the wrong direction or like he's not there yet. So I don't know. It could be a defensive placement thing, or it could just be he's not seeing the ball great in right field. Maybe another reason to move him over to left. But his arm, I think he has one of the best arms in the league. I don't know if there's metrics to back that up, but he usually, has pretty good assist numbers.
Look at this sexy Phillies outfield. Negative 63 runs by Schwarber, negative 66 by Castellanos. Oof.
Think about the numbers Zack Wheeler puts up in that ballpark with those two clowns in the outfield. Like,
in Castellanos' defense, he's been a lot better the last few years, but still funny.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I think that wraps up our player profile projections. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.